was just going to say, I have one thing to say about Serena. The other thing that I want to see, because we haven't seen this happen yet, is I want to see Serena come to grips with the fact that that baby is not hers, and any baby that she was ever gifted by a handmaid was not going to be hers. And I want her to realize that I want her to come to terms with her delusion.
Yes, that's exactly it. I know
that would be beautiful. That would be like the bow on the gift.
Absolutely. Because we've talked a lot about how we don't really like the phrase a redemption arc, and what does that even look like for Serena? I think that's what it looks like. Exactly that.
Yeah.
That's what I want to see.
I don't need redemption, but I need recognition of like, oh, shit. Oh.
In my mind, that will redeem her. If she can come to grips and understand that, to me, that is the redemption arc. If she can at least see that full picture that at this point she refuses to see.
I also realize I'm asking a lot.
Oh, for sure.
It's definitely a big ask, but like I'm inclined to agree with you both. I think it's less a matter of redemption and more a matter of reconciliation. And if we can get that reconciliation from Serena, then that will have to be gratifying enough for us, and we'll have to accept that, because not every character is going to be offered that redemption. Like we hate the notion of a redemption arc, but at the end of the day, life is sloppy, and not every person is going to have the opportunity to make themselves a better person and be able to learn from their mistakes. Sometimes people just don't or won't or can't or shouldn't. And Serena might be that for us. She might be that opportunity for us to realize that she can't move past this. But at the very least, Scarlett, if she can reconcile that notion that June's child has no affiliation with her whatsoever, save for whatever social construct it was born into, then that would be an absolute delight.
Although, I mean, I guess I can see that she has something in, as far as any child ever, she had some kind of role in that child's life by getting her out of Gilead. I feel like that's the one thing that I feel I was justifiably angry with Luke for, was that in that moment he couldn't give Serena the one thing she needed to maybe stop her from going on this entire media campaign with Fred to get this child back. And it was the fact that she just wanted some acknowledgement that she did have some role in the fact that this child got out of Gilead. And it's true. Serena did have a role in that. And she should be allowed to say, here, child, this is my story. Here, Luke, pass it on.
But she doesn't.
Okay.
But she's not deserving of it. That's the thing. She's just not deserving of it. And that's the kind of like retribution that you want to see against Serena, because she shouldn't be given props for doing the right thing. We're always so surprised when Serena does something that's noble or selfless. It's a surprise every fucking time. It's a surprise to literally no one else except Serena every time. And so I think that's the problem that I have with her in that respect.
Very much agree with you on that, Scarlett. And ultimately, if Luke had given her that, like, that notion of like, you had some sort of hand in getting this child out of Gilead, it would have been a placation. Because Serena is the impetus for why this child exists in the first place, with this ridiculous ceremony, and like with forcing her driver and her handmaid to have an illicit affair outside of everything. So giving Serena that opportunity for closure and that opportunity for reconciliation, it doesn't feel just or fair, because ultimately this child wouldn't have existed had she not pushed her hand towards getting that child in the first place.
So what if that's the outcome of the war tribunal? Because I think you're 100% right that she absolutely does have a role in this child's existence and freedom, and it's because she has a role in the way it was made, and therefore she's on trial. And what if that's what, in the end, they're like, that's the redemption we get and the reconciliation that we get from Serena, is for her to finally have that laid out in front of her of, yeah, you did have a part in this child's life. It's this. Go to jail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A public declaration of such would be pretty fucking
Right.
nice for her to actually admit, like, no, the child was not mine.
Right.
Say it, Serena. I want
Yeah.
that.
It would be so gratifying to see that public declaration of culpability, as well as that public declaration of a removal of self. I don't know if we're going to be gifted that in season 4. I genuinely don't. It would be delightful. At least for, like, I think that, like, it would be wonderful for us to at least see that acknowledgement of her realizing that the only hand that she had in this child's existence was the multiple forcible rapes. And that is that. But I don't think there'll be a public declaration of that, if I'm to be honest, like, at least not until season 5.
Yeah.
It's going to take a long time to work through all of those walls that she has, that she's built up.
Right. I guess if we want an honest one, then you're right. It shouldn't be until season 5. She can't have that big of a revelation that quickly.
No, absolutely not.
That delusion took a long time to build, and it's going to take a long time to kind of deconstruct.
Absolutely.
I think that we need to come to terms with the fact hold on. I think we need to come to terms with the fact that as we get into season 4 and we know it's a transitional episode, that we know some of our favorite characters are going to transition out. And the ones that we know don't make it into the testaments are Serena and Fred.
Yeah.
So something is going to happen to them at some point where they're not part of the story anymore. And I can't wait till they present us with that. And that's actually awesome if you think about it, because the two people you fucking hate the most as you're watching this goddamn show, it's Fred and Serena. I mean, Serena definitely captivates us because she has such an interesting character arc. Like, June, we understand her plight. We understand how to justify most of the things that she does. And it's very, very easy to sympathize with her. So I almost feel like we don't really talk about her arc very much as we've been in season 1 and season 2. We did a lot in season 3, though. But with Serena, it's been a continual thing because I think you always just want to understand more how the evil people got to where they are. Why are they the way that they are, and what led them to make them participate in the things that they participated in and believe in the things that they want to believe in? That is a seriously interesting story. And it bums me out that eventually we're not going to have that. But I hope that they close it out really well.
They'll close it out.
They will close it out. And also,
I have high hopes. Like, I don't want them to drop off the map. When you read The Handmaid's Tale and the Testaments, these two characters are like poofed out of existence. And they were a huge part of the TV series. They're going to have an extraordinary finish in this show. I will accept nothing less. I want Fred's exit out of this show to be everything he deserves. Every last fucking thing, because Fred is that douchebag. Yeah. And then I want Serena to get what she deserves, but what Serena deserves isn't necessarily what she will get. It might not necessarily be what we want, but it'll be perfect. Yeah. And I'm really gunning for that. Like, guys, just do us a solid. Make these two go out in like the most perfect ways.
If I may, what they both deserve is obscurity.
Yeah.
What each of them has wanted in both their public and personal arenas has been some sort of power, recognition, acknowledgement of relevancy. Exactly. Yeah. And the most powerful thing that can happen to either of them, and the most poetic justice, is that they fade into obscurity.
I think you are 100% spot on. That is exactly what they would least want to see, and that is immediately what I want to see.
Yes.
I'm just picturing Fred being completely fucking forgotten. I mean, they can't even pin down who he actually
Who he
is.
was.
And then, but then,
Right.
like, you know, he always sees himself as like this public figure. And at the end of the day, 200 years from now, nobody knows who the fuck you are, Fred.
Right?
Yeah. No one
Serena,
gives
we
a shit.
expect that to happen because that always
Yeah.
happens to women in history.
Right,
But I don't know,
right.
Serena, like,
No.
I don't know. I want Fred's exit to reflect just how irrelevant he has always been. And I want Serena's exit to come with some full understanding of herself.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Boom. Like you push her off the deck of the ship then. It's like,
Yeah.
fine.
Yep.
And you make such an amazing point there. We would love to see that. And it's also because like villains are always the most compelling characters. Look at any Disney movie.
Oh, they're so
mean,
great.
Disney movies are great. The villain is always the most compelling.
Mhm.
But the villain is always like I can't think of a single Disney movie where the villain's end has been gratifying and satisfying to. Yeah, they're not gratifying or satisfying to that end.
I know.
Yeah. So in that regard, like it makes perfect sense if Serena and Fred are not afforded that perfect ending
Mhm.
because they being the villains, they should just be dropped off the edge of the cliff.
Yeah.
We hear the woo of them dropping away, and that's it. Like there's no explanation, there's no finish line, there's no punchline. It's just they were awful, they were terrible, and now we're done with them.
Bye.
And that's a cliche trope, and I'd love for them to do something more nuanced than that.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it's just the idea of them fading into obscurity is the single most beautiful reconciliation for both of their character arcs that we could hope for.
Yeah. Especially Fred. I feel like Serena
Mhm.
has already kind of seen that
She's
because
paid a
of
lot.
her life as a wife in Gilead. But for Fred, that's all he cares about is the recognition and the clout that goes with his position. So for him to fade into obscurity, it's perfect. I feel like Serena's already faded into obscurity and watched it happen. So I don't know if that's really poetic for her. She's already experienced all of that.
Yeah, that's true. With the inception of Gilead, she faded away.
Right.
That is true. And she definitely like I feel like her realizing her hand in that would be the closest thing we can get to that redemption. And I know that we've talked about whether or not she's actively or complacently responsible for what's happening in Gilead, but ultimately she is a massive part of June's trauma.
Yeah.
And if we're going to be following along with what's happening with the Handmaid's Tale and the Handmaid being June,
Right.
then we have to like look at Serena and we have to look at her like her responsibility in that trauma.
Right.
So as much as we want to paint a pretty picture for her, things cannot end well for her.
No, I don't think they need to paint a pretty picture. We just need to make it feel right. Like I feel like exactly what you're saying, that the most poetic justice scenes for me, the most cathartic scenes for me with Serena are the ones when June gets to say, hey, that pain you're feeling, it's what you did to me. That's it. She says it a couple times in season 3, and that's what I want to see. I want to see a bigger version of that reckoning with Serena.
Yeah. I don't think we're going to be afforded that.
Yeah, that's fair.
It would be because it'd be too gratifying and because it'd be too cookie cutter. I mean, realistically, how many times have you had the opportunity to discuss with someone and fully lambaste someone who has wronged you in the most egregious of fashions? And any of the offenses that the three of us have experienced have never been to the scale of what June has experienced.
Yeah.
And we've never been afforded that luxury. I mean, have either of you?
But June has. She got to. We got to see it.
To a point.
Right.
But never to the point that she could shake Serena and be like, you ripped my child, both of my children away from here.
I don't think
she
Serena got it, but she got to do it twice.
She did get to do it. I mean, if we're talking about like the scene at the Lincoln Memorial in particular, that's what really comes to mind.
Before, in the beginning of season 3, when she first comes back and she says to her, you know, because Serena's like, how could you give her to Glenn or Emily or whatever her name is? And she's like, you know, she shakes her and does exactly what you're saying. And she says, this is exactly what I want you to feel, that what it's like to have a child ripped from you. That was the most cathartic thing for as a viewer to see, was June screaming that in her face. What I want to see now is Serena to realize that. I don't think that's June saying it is one thing. I want to see the other side. I want to see, and it can be the most intimate setting. It's fine with me. It's better for me if it's only Serena when she realizes it. But I just want Serena to truly realize it, because I don't think she has yet.
And I hope that we do realize that, but I don't think we're going to.
We might, guys, because if Serena is knocked up and she's in Canada and she's being tried there, or Switzerland, whatever the fucking place it is that you have these tribunals, what if she is pregnant? And what if they're like, well, you are in effect a prisoner. You cannot have a baby in this facility. And then they take that baby. Did Rox just fall over? Oh, hold up. All right. So did you hear the part where I said Serena's going to could possibly be in prison, and she could possibly be pregnant, and they could possibly take her baby away?
Oh, yeah. I was listening to everything when I was tumbling.
Okay. Yeah. So I think we might there's a possibility we could get what we're hoping for a lot sooner. Like, could you imagine if she does, if she's pregnant, if those pictures are more than we are, thinking they will be, if she is, and she has that baby in Canada, will they feasibly allow that baby to stay with her? If she is in custody and if she is a prisoner, they very well might not be. And that baby might get farmed out somewhere else. And that would be absolute poetic justice.
Absolutely.
It could.
Agreed.
That's very realistic.
Not only would it be poetic justice, but it would be a very compelling storyline for season 5.
Yeah.
The custody battle of where does this child end up? Does it end up back in Gilead, or does it end up back in Canada?
Oh shit. Yeah.
And but also, like, custody battles aren't necessarily the most compelling of television, especially for Emmy-winning TV shows. So, who knows?
And we don't hear anything in the testaments about baby, whatever. It's all baby Nicole. There's no reference to Serena's baby being famous. I don't know. I just think if they went that way, I don't want to see the baby die upon birth, because I know that that's a thing. That would be like, I just feel like that is absolutely a possibility as well. And then they could take Serena's story into like this whole other thing for season 5. If she makes it that far, because who the fuck knows? They could execute her. I don't know how this stuff works.
Right.
And what did they do with the people at the Nuremberg trials? I don't know. I don't have any background on that, but I'm very sure that some of them were executed.
Yes.
Imagine,
yes. And also execution via Serena's child potentially not making it through. Again, assuming that Serena has a child and is with child in season 4.
Yep.
And then, like, all these assumptions aside, giving her and her child the luxury of dying in childbirth. Like, I can't, like, that's too soft of a reconciliation. It is. And Serena needs to go through the notion of having that child ripped from her and knowing that it's going to continue to live, and that it will never remember her. It will never know anything about her. It won't have the chance to have that ballerina in the music box that she so dearly loved, or any of these other memories that she's trying to implant on her own quote unquote child. That is the only way that Serena can have that reconciliation. If she is to be pregnant in season 4, and if she does lose that child, it sort of feels like a cop-out.
I don't know. I feel like I could see a way for Serena specifically for a baby dying to be the worst thing for her to experience. And that is because Serena truly buys into the Gilead ideology. She's been raised in it. She's steeped in it. That is what she lives in. And for a baby for her child to die in childbirth is a direct commentary on her ability to mother. And I don't think there's a more succinct commentary for Serena than for God to say, I don't think you're capable of being a mother.
Hells no, we're not doing this. You're not going to be a mom.
I think Serena would take that to heart more seriously than she would take any state sanctioned ripping of her child from her, as
Yeah.
poetic as that would be. I
Yeah.
feel like God taking it into his own hands
Yeah.
and being like, Serena, you're not capable of being a mother. You can't love anybody, would be really, really interesting for her to cope with.
Here's another
Marjorie,
thing
that's-
that I was thinking about too, and it's along the lines of Serena being pregnant and just being allowed to have a child, period, is when Twello comes to her in the Smart Power episode, he says, you know, just something like, imagine it, you know, like a child of your own. That child of your own was not going to be happening with Fred. He's implying that there is a possibility that she could still have a child. I feel like if when she was shot, it would be kind of well known that that would be a bolster for her crusade, that she lost her own fertility for this cause.
Absolutely.
So that's why I'm not sold on Serena not being able to have a child.
100%.
Is because of what he says. Because why would you tell that to her? Like, because then you're going to say, oh, we could fix your husband, but oh yeah, by the way, about that womb. I don't think that was never part of the conversation. So that's why I just really wonder if that's going to be a prominent thing. I could be fucking wrong too, but it was just something that it's gnawing at me.
No, I agree with you completely, because the issue with Serena and Tuello having that conversation is that if Tuello seemed to be really up on all the intel on Serena.
Yeah.
So you're telling me that he knows that she likes to drink and she wants a cigarette, but he doesn't know that she has had a hysterectomy because of the gunshot wound she suffered back when America was still America? Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I also appreciate the notion of the direct versus the implication, or the direct notion and the direct acknowledgement of Serena's infertility versus the implication of her infertility. And this is something that, like, in our last reaction video, when we were talking about Serena potentially being pregnant and what the implications that could be, we did get a lot of kickback from people being like, no, like, Serena is injured and like she like was shot in the uterus. Like, yes, there's the implication there, but they never explicitly say it. And in Gilead, and very much in this world, if they don't explicitly say something, you have to understand that there's a notion that it could still be potentially otherwise. So there's the implication that when Serena is shot, that perhaps, maybe, possibly, she's shot in a way that might affect her fertility. And we've hypothesized about this at great length.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, we weren't offered anything concrete.
Exactly.
Until season 3, when she and Fred are in the woods and they're talking, and Serena is discussing, like, oh, like, if only I could have, like, been the sort of person, like if only God had granted me the gift of being able to give you a child. And Fred's retort of, no, if only I had been able to give you the seed with which to have a child.
Yes.
Like, in this scene, Fred is acknowledging that he is infertile. And he is incapable of having children. And Serena's acknowledgement is because that's what she has been led to believe. Yeah. Whereas with Fred, there seems a certainty there.
Yes.
So until we know for certain which one, or perhaps both, whether it's both, neither, or one of the parties are actually incapable of bearing children, everything is up in the air. Nothing has actually been confirmed. Right. The closest that we have to a confirmation is that Fred has managed to not impregnate at least 2 of his handmaids.
Yes.
Which is much more proof than we've been given to whether or not Serena is capable of a harbingering life.
Especially considering that we've seen June can get pregnant.
Exactly. And that's the trick with the handmaids. Yeah. Every single handmaid has been proven to be fertile. And proven to be able to harbinger life. And yet Fred hasn't been able to provide on that. So within the construct of Gilead, of course, like, the culpability falls on the woman. But logically, it stands to reason that anyone would be able to extrapolate that Fred is the common denominator here. And when Fred has that acknowledgement of, no, you deserve to be with someone who could actually give you the child that you want, is his acknowledgement of, like, the notion, like the ideology of Gilead is flawed,
Right.
because it doesn't account for the reality that the men are ultimately responsible for the lack of fertility.
Very good points. Yeah, we're kind of like we're on the same wavelength for sure.
Definitely.
That's all I have to say about this whole season 4 thing, by the way.
My glasses run dry.
Oh my God, you out of champagne?
No, I got half a bottle still. But my mind has certainly run dry, and I was trying to align the two.
Yeah, I have half a bottle of Chardonnay left.
Well, I'm out of whiskey, so there's that. And an Irish woman without whiskey is a sad state of affairs. So we should end this before it gets ugly.
Absolutely. Okay, well, I guess we're going to peace out at this point. Thank you for listening, and email us or social media at us with whatever your thoughts are on season 4, because we're always open to hearing other people's thoughts, theories, perspectives. We dig that, and we will talk back to you because we love us some social media.
Yes. Like, oh, go ahead, Marjorie. Sorry.
Definitely go check out our character arc part 1, 2, 3, and 4 back in season 3, because if you really want a great place to jump off as to jumping into season 4, that really is, we really cover every character arc in a whole lot of depth. So if you enjoyed this conversation and you want to hear more of it, we have about 12 hours back there, so enjoy.
We sure do.